What's up, guys? Vince Roddy here. Yes, space talk. We're about to talk about space, or talk about this docu-series on Netflix, Countdown: Inspiration4 Mission to Space. So, for those that are not aware, um, yeah, there was a launch that happened a couple weeks ago. I'm bad with timing. A couple weeks ago, knowing the launch to space, and it was the Inspiration4 program, and they were raising money for St. Jude's Hospital, and this was the first ever civilian space program. We're talking about everyday people. Usually it was trained astronauts going to space. These are not trained astronauts. These were just for regular people with different kind of jobs that don't lead to being an astronaut, which really showcases how far we came from as a civilization and as a space program. NASA have how they're involved because of everyday technology, and it's showing how anyone can go to space, whether if you dream of it. And just these people, like, literally, I think Christopher Sambrowski was just donating like a couple of dollars to like a charity for NASA, and was donating, and also got pretty much I might be wearing this very in through my memories, the way I'm putting it. But yeah, I just got a call from Jerry Eisman, as that's how they met. And just Jerry was like, yeah, you want to go to space, and Christopher's like, yeah. And that pretty much leads on to just them to go to space, as if it's like, hey, you want to come to Hawaii? I was like, yeah, kind of like that. And it was like almost this. There was something about this documentary, and also my love for space. But before I get there, I gotta tell you how I really got into space. It was basically last year, during summer. I think it was like pretty much, as I call it, the what year. Because last year was just garbage, and it was during a time where I was trying to get away from everything, and it was especially during the whole BLM riots. And I was just, trying to find anything that would just like get my mind off of things. And I saw this NASA launch for like the Crew Dragon that SpaceX put out, which is Elon Musk's, program, which is the SpaceX, because he has a dream for space, like many millionaires, and launched, pretty much the first kind of, their Beta Dragon, or the Beta new spaceship from SpaceX, to launch two astronauts to go to space. And it was sort of like a big deal. And it opened my mind and astounded me of like just how that was almost easy. Because a lot of times I always think that going to space is just like so hard, which it is. It is, rocket, the science. But in all that taken into account, it's beginning to be more, especially how I see it nowadays, somewhat more easier. I think there was this one lady that works for NASA, which I think is the head of NASA, saying that, yeah, here in NASA, we're basically a spaceport, or along those words, just saying like a spaceport. And that made me think like, so, and I know it's just words, I know she's probably joking or something like that, but it's also like, so kind of like an airport, we're now a spaceport. It was a place for like rocket launches that happen every 3 or 4 years, and many people that are not familiar with space be like, oh, astronauts go to space every kind of month, and not too big about that. But really, do they, for this big of an occasion, for this kind of progress? And now it's just heading out there knowing that it's sort of like a bit more easier. It's still hard, but it's like beginning to be almost there, especially how Elon Musk was trying to make space a little bit more affordable, how it would be more easier, how we're gonna progress. And this is sort of like the practice point of one day, especially how this has became a meme, because when is Elon Musk is not a meme of this meme of him going to Mars, and how that is sort of like beginning to be a possibility. And seeing this documentary and how big it is, and how it reached the many headlines, made me really think that space travel is just getting more normal and better, and as time moves on. Of course, my my introduction to this documentary was from me subscribe to NASA, them showcasing like, hey, the first ever all civilian um, space launch. I think around along in their YouTube videos with when I saw the title, and I was like, yeah, right, and I was like, oh, this is something. This is actually real, which I shouldn't be surprised because what else is because there's almost like a lot of firsts through this documentary. One of the youngest astronaut, which is well, actually, an astronaut. Are they astronauts? Anyone can be an astronaut. I guarantee you, I will count them as astronauts because they were not trained astronauts, but they are now, since they survived from space. Would that make Jeff Bezos an astronaut since he went to space for just like what, a couple minutes or something? Like, didn't see Earth's orbit, but went to like I'm trying to understand the term astronauts. What I mean? And yeah, these astronauts, just call it that. Haley being the youngest astronaut to go up to space, the youngest American astronaut, but also the first St. Jude's cancer patient that are pretty much suffered from cancer and survived, and also has like, from what I believe, prosthetic, something like that, of some sort. It's some kind of like something that is within her disability, but that didn't stop her to go to space. And also, seeing pretty much being like the first black what is this pilot leader of the group. I could be wording these wrong, okay? Knowing that their titles, it's a lot of firsts because they are the first civilians to go to space. And it's also another first here. Yes, there's a lot because this is literally history. We're living in a history book right now in this decade, that's for sure, of them being the first civilians, but also the first ones to be at the highest of altitude of orbit, higher than the ISS, which is the International Space Station, which NASA, whenever they launch people up there, they usually go there. For these people, this mission alone with Inspiration4, they go to space, not going to the ISS, which I'm really thinking like this could be the first like crew to actually just go in their own spaceship, in their own cabinet, basically, and go into the highest level of space, and to the point where they see literally the edge of every planet. I will never forget that episode that I just saw a couple minutes ago as I'm reviewing this, that they saw every inch of the planet, and almost like it's like this small kind of like window that they see Earth, and they can see everything that Earth offers. And when I was seeing that, look, if there's something for me that I enjoy, I can never get tired of seeing Earth's orbit in real life. I know that videos don't do justice of the feeling, but I almost felt like I was there. I guess that's what this documentary did well. And of course, the ones that were filming, this whole space, travel thing that they were in was just them seeing the whole thing like they were filming. I think it was either like Christopher or Jared, but you just see the whole crew just there witnessing all this and their reactions and everything, and some stuff that was never seen before. I never thought that you can actually brush your teeth up in space. I never thought like how like food works. Like they were eating some kind of like cheese curds or something like that in space. Like I thought it was like gonna be like frozen, or like they were showing. I think Jared was like showing a coffee, of like, oh yeah, this is my coffee, and it was literally a toothpaste. You're drinking from a toothpaste. I never seen that before. So it was all these discoveries that I personally found where I'm like, this is amazing. This is something. And this is the thing about space travel and why I became so amazed by it. Literally for all my life, I always think that space is just like impossible. Seeing Star Trek and Star Wars, I'm like, yeah, that's sci-fi. Come on now, don't be silly. Like that's always been in my mind, knowing that I from seeing either like the launches, how normally it's like almost every month there's like a new space launch, and how this whole space mission of the docu-series that it's shown, and how it's becoming normal, and how, certain futures are like coming, like literally from spaceships. There was even a beta spaceship called Firefly, and it was gonna be like newest kind of, private owned space rocket program that they were, gonna NASA's gonna be working with. And from seeing all this, it was like, it was almost, and don't get me started with other countries. I think China was actually, already headed to the space program, and they already launched. And especially my discovery of rovers. Now that's a whole nother conversation. Rovers in Mars, I was still blown away. I think when I was in astronomy class, believe it or not, that's how I also, like, I became so amazed from the space launch back in, like, what was it, like back in last year, of seeing Bob Behnken and Douglas go into space with the Crew Dragon space program. That was the first kind of launches I seen last year, and it became interested to me knowing that I gotta find out more. That's why I just, became a student for astronomy, I guess, and from seeing all the like discoveries of stars and, different worlds out there, I think there was like, my teacher, a professor at that time, and when doing astronomy, was basically sharing like, okay, so you see all these stars, like the Capricorns and, Sagittarius, and, these different like stars, and, up in the sky and stuff like that. It it for some reason it rang to me when I found out that these were different galaxies. These were different worlds that were literally a billion years away from literally this planet. And it just, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. It became amazing to me. And also knowing that, seeing this progress of space travel, it was like everything was sort of coming together, where I was like, oh wow, is this where I think it's going? Are we literally living in a future progress where sci-fi is going to be sci-fact? Like, I think Elon Musk said that, and I'm like, okay, Elon, you're crazy. But then again, he makes spaceships, and he's the reason why that this mission went well. Where I'm like, okay, what else is new? Knowing that it's just like beginning to be up there. And I know that many people are not really caught up to it, especially my friends and my family, and, especially people that follow me. They're like, wait a minute, Vince, you were into space? And I know this is sort of random. This is sort of like coming, like, like I just, the idea of me being into space, like I just got it out of my ass or something. But it's like almost like something that just amazes me. Like, the biggest thing in the universe would amaze you. And this amazed me because it's just life-changing, And the progress that they did in the docuseries of how they progressed to this moment, and sharing the stories of these different astronauts going to space, from, saying of actually having her father being part of the Apollo mission when when he was at Guam a long time ago, with the the mission of satellites, of trying to make sure the signal goes well within that program when they came back, to Earth from the moon. And also Haley's story of the St. Jude's Hospital, and how that's, her history about her family, how she worked there, and how she was, the St. Jude's Hospital basically took care of her, was sort of a itinerary moment as well, And it was one of those moments in these, like, especially in this documentary, where there was just so much out there, no in space. If there's one thing I really want to hopefully, watch when I do see a particular person in space, I do want to see this guy named Blake, wait, what's it? Okay, Gabriel Brown, aka Black Griffin. I don't know where the word Blake came from, but just like I saw his video, I'm like, oh, I know that's that's Black Griffin over there. Like he's singing, and pretty much he made the like a Dear Moon video, which that was another program that they did, like Dear Moon and all these other space influencers that were making like videos of like, hey, accept me to go to the moon, or accept also videos like accept me going to space. And I think Saiyan won the competition for that video. And it was almost like something like this that also amazes me, having to know that this was also the future of space travel and how easy it was, is when I saw Christopher Bolowski, I don't know, Christopher, I'm just going to call him Chris, that Chris just donated like money for a charity that NASA was doing. And I could be getting this wrong, but out of nowhere, he got a random call, a surprise call almost, where he got a call from one of the people that are the head of like, that are in charge, of like, with one of the rockets in SpaceX. It surely wasn't Elon Musk, but it was like, it was Jared that was with him and also was with part of the Inspiration4, was part of this program. And also we discovered like Jared's story. I never know who it is. I always thought that millionaires never kept a secret. For some reason, when I saw Jared, I was like, Jared who? You would almost think it would be like, another millionaire like Bill Gates and of course Elon and Jeff Bezos, definitely in that list. But when I saw like Jared, I was like, oh, this millionaire just kept it in the down low. Even though he was known for many things, he wasn't known much. Like, where did that came from? Anyways, once, Jared and also his friend there that was, part of SpaceX was just, giving like a call and trying to surprise Chris, like, hey, you're going to space. And Chris almost was like thinking that this is a joke. But then when he saw like Jared and also the other people that were in charge, he recognized and he was like, wait, what's going on? And it was like almost like that moment where I was like, it was that simple. Like just a call and just Jared asking Chris like, hey, you want to go to space? And Chris was like, yeah. And just like that, he became an astronaut. I don't know how easy that was. I don't understand. Like that just wowed me. I'm like, so space travel is just that easy, huh? Like I can just donate and I can get a random call, even though I usually ignore a lot of my unknown calls because I get a lot of those for some reason. And I get a random call and I answer it. I'm like, who's this? And it's like Jared. And it's also like, I don't know, I can only picture it be Elon Musk and I can recognize the voice. And he's like, yes, so we're gonna, if you're interested, something. I'm like, interested of what? I'm like, do you want to go to space? I'm like, And of course I would joke like, yeah, sure, I would love to. Oh, we're going to the moon, which is something that Haley said that was funny. And like, if that would have happened to me, knowing that I wouldn't be prepared, it would be like one of those moments where like, should I say yes? Should I make history? I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm just like, do I want to go to space? Of course I don't. But still, it's one of those things that lingers through my mind. And they also go through this documentary of how a lot of worries and a lot of like, the history of many mistakes that NASA made, which was horrifying to see, from space launches, especially this one launch that I think the teachers from like middle school or something told me about, which was the launch that I think it was like some high school or middle school teacher that was going to space, and this was a long time ago, was going to space. And when she went up to space trying to get out of the Earth's orbit, the rocket exploded. It was terrifying. I saw it and I was like, that's sad. That is very disturbing to see, but also pretty sad because you see this like how much NASA and also these other rocket companies, how they learn, how they progress, and how they've been working hard to actually get to this moment where space travel is a bit more safer and affordable, and well, actually not affordable, but it's still in the millions, but still it's somewhere that is going to be more prevalent in the future as time moves on. And the progress that I see through it is something also inspiring because of how from the beginning of where they came from and what they were doing in their lives. They were just just working and just minding business, and also just going home and stuff like that, to actually now going to like a rocket launch, you know getting inside a Tesla and just driving in there to actually get to the rocket launch, and then getting to there with their last phone call before they go to space. It was one of those moments that was sort of like, and there was a lot of parts in this docu-series that was very emotional, knowing that the family was involved, where their kids were involved, and everyone, their friends, and especially the people working in NASA, the ones that get there to that moment, were involved. And it was one of those deep moments where I was just never and just amazed by my thoughts of just this whole series in general. I was just already amazed because I knew I was into the future of space travel. Of course, I could easily watch like any sci-fi or something like that. Here's the thing, this is not sci-fi, this is real. So it was like, can you imagine like putting this into sci-fi? Like, like, I swear one day there's gonna be a documentary of like Jeff Bezos like crazy idea of making like a space cathedral, and how all of us were like, yeah, that's silly. But then he makes it for real, and it was almost like, oh, you actually, okay, Jeff, you made an actual space cathedral the size of two Plutos. Like, it's gonna be one of those moments where in space history where it's gonna be crazy. And I know I sound crazy talking about space because here I am, ranting, not really ranting, but also just rambling about like how crazy the future is, and pretty much sounding like a sci-fi nerd. Anyways, look, I'm not into sci-fi. That's not my genre. Okay, it's usually romances. Just look at the videos I make. Let me tell you. And for this particular, the thing is that I have nothing to do with at all when it comes to space, or when it comes to space launches or NASA or anything. I have no history at all. Another thing that I wouldn't be part of like the launch itself, because I wouldn't have nothing to do with it. Honestly, like they're just gonna pick like a random skate kid that happens to just to be into anime, and boom, I'm in space. But it was one of those things where it was like, this is sort of real. This is happening for real. Like, this is like a lot of firsts, whether it's like, the youngest, to go to space, and also the first to actually get through like the highest in orbit, and how the first to actually see, the planet Earth from its whole entire view and atmosphere, where it blows me away. And another thing that also just like, from you see the picture and you see how the rocket ship was just launching, and how it's just up there. One thing that I saw, and I saw this from the streams and also the launch itself from, SpaceX, and also when I saw everyday astronauts' reaction of it, which was priceless. The launch that went up there. I mean, let me tell you, I never felt nervous knowing that I wasn't involved, but I felt for them, and they were just excited. But I was like, I would be scared. Like, knowing that I was like, oh, this is the day, this is it for me, but hopefully I can get true orbit. Okay, I don't want to explode on the ship. That is a worry. Okay, that is a very dark, disturbing worry that I have. And it could have been like that. It could have been something that could happen. But also seeing the rocket absorbed and then kabloom. Like, it didn't explode. You would almost think it did. But just light. Especially how the rocket launch was during, nighttime. And the launch, as they went up to cloud 9, you see this explosion of light that just absorbed every inch of the sky. And it was like the most craziest and coolest thing I have ever seen. And it was that point where I was like, yeah, is this sci-fi? This is crazy. This is just insane. I don't know. I like being stoked, okay? I like being blown away knowing that, stuff like this that is real out there is a possibility, And of course, this is just the whole video of me talking about and, fanboying about space and stuff. And it's just crazy how I would get here knowing that I would be into it, because it's just the most interesting. And also during this time, in this period of this, like, we're living in the history books. Like, this launch and Elon Musk like space campaign or something, and how technology has built through this whole space program of how where it is from where it began, from seeing the history and where it is now. Like in my head, I'm just imagining like if one of the people that found America or traveled in different islands to find like the quote unquote new world, since that's part of my US history, that they would actually see this, from, because I can only imagine like this sort of like taken from the inspiration of like like I don't know, Christopher Columbus or some other people that colonized different places of the earth, that this almost seems like it follows up to that, because we're beginning to actually witness like the beginning of finding like a new world, because this whole the plans, especially for these billionaires, let me tell you, Elon Musk really wants to go to Mars and colonize it, and I'm just like, okay, Elon, I mean, it's not gonna be pretty, but it's a possibility almost. That's the crazy thing. Like you're really gonna go there, huh? You really gotta like we're already like building up like a spaceship to actually go to the moon a second time, believe it or not. And then we're going to Mars, and then you want to go to Europa. It's like many humans have their different like perspective of where they want to go in space. And it's beginning to be like that, especially the many rovers that are like in Mars. It's just, I don't know. This is just all crazy to me. This is all crazy. But of course, I'm not, the only one crazy knowing talking about this. I was supposed to talk about, the documentary and all of it, but I just can't help but really talk about my thoughts, and which I'm supposed to talk about, but also talk about my mindset of like how all of this is ever possible, because it's like an actual like Star Wars that is beginning to be real almost. It's like I don't know, like it's just a lot to me to think about, and from seeing this was just a treat. And I don't know, it's either this or me talking about Miraculous Ladybug, which a lot of times I kind of just begin like being lazy of just how I'm trying to progress of ever talking about like certain like animations, which I am going to be doing soon. But for this one, it's just like I have to talk about this. This is just one of those documentaries, one of those moments in events in life in terms of space, especially how when Netflix was live streaming the whole space launch, and how many other services were live streaming it, and also seeing their view of it, and how it's beginning to be more normalized, and how beginning to be more real in today's life. It's like the future is just coming in so close, and it's just crazy for me to witness it. I don't know. I usually don't really review much anything Netflix or anything sci-fi or anything science, or just stuff like this in terms of like space launches and all that. But if I can just have a moment to just live and just share what I find so cool, then that's what I'm doing. That's what I do. Anyways, other than that, thank you guys for watching my rambling. I don't know how long this video is, but yeah, this was amazing documentary, and I dig it. Okay, space is here. The future is here. A peace.